All right, I'm going to go ahead and open this morning's meeting, and we are going to go ahead and hand over presenter mode to Quinn, and the floor is yours. We have about 45 minutes.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time for me to speak with you this morning. In just one moment, I'm going to pull up the All right, here we go. All right, can everyone see the presentation I have up on my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, so my name is, to start things off, my name is Quinn Slavin, and I'm here speaking today on behalf of a newly formed company, Summit Carbon Solutions, which formed earlier this year with the goal of building what will be the world's largest carbon capture project. And it will take place here in the Midwest in Iowa, North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. And I'll get a little bit into the specifics of it in a moment, but just to give you some background here, we plan to partner with, and we've already signed agreements with 31 ethanol plants around the Midwest, 12 of which are actually in Iowa, and one of them is in Hardin County. Moving on here. A little history about Summit Agriculture Group. It is a subsidiary of Summit Farms and Summit Ag Investors, which is actually originally based in Hardin County as well. Currently, Summit Carbon Solutions, this new venture, is based in Ames. Here's a little background on some of the work we've done. We have a lot of experience both in energy and in agriculture. And I believe, as you can see, some of those key statistics to the side there, that our track record speaks for itself in terms of both experience and then successful projects. A look here at our team. We have a couple individuals I would like to point out. Specifically, former Governor Terry Branstad has joined us as a senior policy advisor. Another individual named Martha Wersch, who has a wealth of experience when it comes to both pipelines and renewable energy projects, working with utilities. She worked in both President Bush's administration and President Obama's administrations. And so we're very excited to have her on our team as a senior strategic advisor. A few other individuals here from the Summit team. Bruce Rastetter is our founder and CEO. Justin Kirchhoff serving as our president, and John Probst is our managing director. So to kind of break this down for you for a moment, what we're looking at doing is partnering, as I said, with these 31 ethanol plants throughout the Midwest. Ethanol is unique in that as it does produce carbon still, it produces CO2 emissions. They are easier to compress and liquefy. And so what we will do is Summit Carbon Solutions will retrofit these ethanol plants so that we can capture the carbon that they produce, transport it via pipeline up to North Dakota, where we will then store it deep underground in geological formations that can permanently house that liquefied carbon. And so as you can see this map on the screen that covers mostly all of the area where we'll go, you'll see that middle pipe that goes all the way up to North Dakota, and then all of those blue stars are ethanol plants that have currently signed on to be a part of this project. I'll get a little bit more into the different parts of this that we talk about in a moment, but some things to note is that when completed, this system will have the capacity to capture 12 million tons of CO2. Now looking at the Iowa footprint here, we're looking to work with 5,000 more than 5,000 actually local shareholders of ethanol partners, and we have the capacity in Iowa, as it's roughly 1/3 of the entire project, having 12 of the 31 ethanol plants. We're expecting about 1/3 of the economic benefits, the jobs and everything to stay here within the state, and it has the capacity to capture 3.3 million tons of CO2. So here's a little breakdown of those jobs. We have, in total, a $4.5 billion investment here, and that will look like 14,000 to 17,000 jobs during the construction phase, and then an additional 350 to 500 jobs that will be permanent once the project is complete. Now, of course, anytime that we work on a project like this, safety is our top priority, I should say. In the last 20 years, there's not been a single fatality related to a CO2 pipeline. And while this is a new, exciting project that we hope to reap huge benefits for the state of Iowa and the Midwest and the ethanol industry, the technology has actually been around since the 1970s. So we're working with something that is well studied and that we have a lot of experience with. There are currently 5,000 miles of CO2 pipes in the US, but this project will still be the largest. Something to note is that we will be partnering with the Building and Construction Trades Council to ensure that we have the best people possible working on this. Now here's a breakdown of kind of the monetization of this. Currently, with 3 pounds of corn, what you're going to get is you're going to get ethanol, you're going to get distillers grain, and then some of that is burned up into CO2. So what we hope to do here is, kind of work with every part of the process. Make use of every byproduct that we get from corn. And so with the CO2, by capturing it and not allowing it to escape up into the atmosphere, we would have access to what's known as the 45Q tax credit. And the 45Q tax credit states that for every ton of CO2 you capture, it's equal to $50. And there's actually a bipartisan push right now to increase that number. But even so, this is a great opportunity to make this project come to life. Now, ethanol has been doing a great job as an industry, working its way down in terms of carbon intensity. You can see there in 1990, it was pretty high. And then with this project, we can actually be on track to make carbon a net zero fuel by 2030. And what's great about that is, as I'm sure all of you know, ethanol is, here's another look, sorry, that shows kind of the environmental impact. You can see 12 million tons of CO2 is actually equivalent to 2.6 million cars being taken off the road, and 15 million acres of forest being planted. So you can see the direct effects that this could have on our environment and our air quality. But as I was starting to say a moment ago, I'm sure you are all aware of how significant the ethanol industry is, both to Iowa and the Midwest as a whole. Over half of the corn that's grown in Iowa goes to the ethanol industry. So it's a great supporter of our farmers and our agriculture. With this project, by lowering the carbon output or the carbon footprint of ethanol, we would allow the industry to access new markets like California, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and even Canada, where they require a low carbon fuel mandate. And so with that, ethanol plants would be able to sell ethanol at a premium there. And that money comes right back to Iowa, and it comes right back to our farmers. Now, here are a couple key takeaways from that. I know I kind of threw a lot at you here, so if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now.
You're storing the liquid carbon in caverns deep below the earth. What do you do with it from there?
From there, it can actually, that's a great question. So the deep geological formations are, if you can imagine, kind of like a rock sponge. They're very porous, and so there's plenty of capacity to store it there. And the plan is to store it there permanently. The specific location we're looking at has the capacity to hold the entire United States carbon for up to 50 years. And now we're just talking about, obviously, a smaller project than that. So we expect to be able to store it there for a very, very long time and keep adding to it.
Is this a completely private venture?
Yes, it is. This is so Summit Carbon Solutions will be footing the bill essentially for all of the retrofitting of the ethanol plants and then for the construction of the pipeline. But then between the 45Q tax credit, the federal tax credit, and the success of the ethanol industry, there will be a great way to monetize it.
How about landowners? How are landowners being treated, or are there any eminent domain issues with this project?
So we are working right now. The plan is to use exclusively voluntary easements. And so actually the way that the pipeline route was first designed, and it is still in a draft phase technically, because we don't want to make any promises before we work with landowners and before we talk to county supervisors, local leaders, and everything. But it was drawn in a way that was specifically intended to avoid conflicts and avoid problems. And so right now we're working on gaining voluntary easements, and that's our goal moving forward, is to stick with those. I will say we are going to be holding public information meetings around the state, including in Hardin County coming up soon here. And so I invite all of you to attend that and see. That's where we will be with the Iowa Utilities Board, and we'll be presenting to landowners and answering any questions they might have.
So landowners wouldn't actually be paid to have the pipeline go through, it would only be on a voluntary basis?
Oh, I apologize. No, so they would be paid. The voluntary easement refers to we're negotiating with them voluntarily, so they don't have to negotiate with us if they don't want to. But once we sign an agreement, they would be compensated for that.
Probably last question, we'll see, but
No problem. No problem.
the CO2 liquid will be used for fracking then?
The plan, as I said, is to permanently store it underground, and just in these geological formations where it can kind of seep through and sit in a very efficient way. So the plan is to permanently store it.
I'll have for one.
All right, I'll stop sharing here for a moment. I think we're back to. I'm just going to pull up. One moment. I'm going to find our date here.
So September 13th is the Hardin County meeting.
Yep. So I welcome all of you to join us on September 13th, and I look forward to working with you and speaking with you all in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me the time to speak today.
You bet.
Have a nice day.
You too, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Lance, for me? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.